Welcome back to the shop, you wrench warriors. Today we're going to do a complete service on this RockShox Reba with the motion control damper system. We're going to go through every single detail to make sure that you get your fork to run as smooth as new. Actually, we're going to get your fork to run smoother than new. And if you haven't removed your fork yet, check out the previous video where we did removal, installation, along with the headset bearing service. All right, what you're going to need for this project is you're going to need a basic socket set. I did a review of this exact one in a previous video. You can check that out. You're going to need a 24mm socket, a wood dowel, a rubber mallet, a set of Allen keys in metric, snap ring pliers, a bicycle torque wrench. This is a Venzo. I did a review of this in an earlier video. Check that out. Some mechanics picks. You're gonna need the fluid. This is Maxima Plush 5-weight. You're gonna need something to measure fluid down to the milliliter. Some Schramm butter for your seals. You're gonna need the RockShox lower oil, 0 to 30 weight. You need the tool to remove Schrader valve cores. You're gonna need the seal set for your particular set of forks. You're gonna need some paper towels, some rubber gloves, and some safety glasses if you're into the whole safety thing. Isopropyl alcohol and a drain pan. Optionally, you're gonna want a bicycle mechanics clamp. Now, this isn't 100% mandatory. It's gonna make your life a lot easier. This is a Venzo, and I did a review of it in a previous video. Go check that out. All right, before we spend too much time on this project, we're gonna wanna check the condition of the bushings in our lowers. These are your lowers, and these are your uppers. If the bushings are bad, you need to replace your entire lower assembly. And they're hard to get for these older models. So if that's the case, you're better off buying new or buying a better used set. But let's go ahead and check and see if ours are any good. First thing you're gonna do is you're gonna wanna pump the shock at least 5 times. That gets the fluid flowing around. You're gonna wanna push it firmly into the table, hold firmly on the steering tube, grab your crown, and try to rock the lowers on the uppers. Okay, my table's wiggling, but I'm not feeling any motion in here at all. And if you did have loose bushings, you'd know it. You'd feel a clunking in your hand as you held this right here. You'd see it, you'd feel it, and you'd hear it. I have none of those problems, so this thing is a good candidate for rebuild. And if you do end up having to replace yours with new, go ahead and watch my video. It's called 2021 Pike Unboxing and Install. I go through the entire process of putting a new shock on your bike, from fitting to cutting down the steering tube, everything. So check that out. All right, let's go forward with rebuilding this one. Let's chuck it up in the bike mechanics clamp. And we're gonna wanna relieve the air pressure. If yours has air pressure up here and on the bottom, this is called your negative air pressure, you need to do the negative first. So let's turn it upside down. All right, down here is our cap for our negative air pressure. Let's remove that. And we'll depress the Schrader valve. Let's flip it up, right side up. We'll do our positive air pressure. All right, you wanna let the air out before taking these apart or you can get hurt. On the bottom of the shock here, we're gonna pull out the Rebound adjustment knob. You just pull it straight out. Now down in there, we have a 5mm Allen key. We're gonna use this ratchet to get down in there. And we're just gonna loosen that about 3 turns. 1, 2, actually about 2 turns. Now the other side, I have a hollow leg, so my Schrader valve uses a 10mm with a deep well. We're gonna go down in there and just turn that around 2 times. Now that we have both sides turned out 2 turns, we're gonna take our 5mm Allen key socket and we're gonna stick it down inside that bolt, hold our lowers firmly, and give it a couple wraps with the rubber mallet. Then you wanna take a very large 10mm deep well with a hole in it big enough to clear the threads on the Schrader valve, or you'll goof up the threads. I've already done it once. So that one clears the threads. We're gonna hold the lowers and we're gonna give it 2 whacks. Now that we've broken those free, we wanna completely remove the hardware. Be sure to hold your uppers so they don't fall out the bottom onto the ground. I'm gonna turn these sideways for just a second. All right, now we got our drain pan underneath our shocks. We'll just go ahead and drain them. Okay, if you're not getting any fluid, that means we didn't break the seal on the legs. So what you have to do is turn it around. You're gonna take your fasteners and you're gonna turn them in a couple of turns. And we're gonna give it a few more wraps. Sometimes rubber just doesn't have that shock you need to break a press fit. So you just turn it in until it bottoms out a little bit, nice and finger loose, and then turn it out 1 turn, tap it, check it again, back it off a little bit. You don't want to be hammering on 1 thread. Okay, that finally did it, I think. Okay, now we're getting oil draining out of these. So there comes the lowers are off the uppers. We're gonna set our lowers down in the pan to drain a little bit. So just to recap what we did there was we loosened both fasteners and then we loosened them a couple turns. Then we tapped them in, loosen them a little bit more, tap them in until they finally broke free. They're press fitted in the bottom of these lowers here. So you gotta just tap them up out of there using the fasteners. Once they're both loose, take the fasteners completely out, turn the shock upright, let it drain for a little bit, and then pull the lowers off. There wasn't very much oil in it, hardly anything really. There's only 5 cc's of oil in each side, and that's called the oil bath, and it lubricates these stanchions. And as it coats it with oil, that oil will mix with dirt and then cake off, so that oil does get consumed. So about every 25 hours, you want to pull those lowers and add to your oil bath. Or what'll happen is you'll run dry like this one is. And so you'll start to get stiction, and once you get stiction, it starts to wear out the bearings or the bushings in the lowers. Then you need new lowers or you need new shocks. In the next segment, we'll be removing these seals. But a quick word of caution is hold on to the tube you're working on, keep it off the table, and pull out the seal that you're working on. Don't allow the fork to bend against the table or twist, because without the uppers in, these things are actually not that strong and you can bend them. And you're gonna wanna use a dull, big flathead screwdriver with a round shaft. You're gonna push it under the seal, but not so far that you're grabbing the aluminum. Okay, other seals out, pull our foam ring out. This right here is your bushing. And down deeper in there is another one, you can see it. Same thing on this side. All right, now we need to clean down inside our lowers here. So we'll cut off a piece of an old t-shirt. You gotta use a Mountain Dew shirt if you're working on a mountain bike. I'm gonna take a wooden dowel. This one looks like it's about 3/8 inch. And I'm gonna zip tie this to the end of it. Pull it very, very tight. Use pliers to help me. Soak this with alcohol. Now it's clean down inside there. I've tried to use paper towels down in here, but they come apart and little bits end up caught all over the place. So use an old t-shirt. This rag still looks pretty clean, so I'm just gonna use it for the other side as well. Now I'm just gonna blow it out to get any debris out. Everything looks really clean and no debris. Now go ahead and open up your seal kit and take out the foam rings. Place them in a container, and we're gonna use our lower oil. In this case, I'm using 0W30 RockShox oil. We're gonna wanna pre-soak these foam rings. The rings have been soaking for a few minutes. They look pretty saturated. Let's grab our seals. These are called the dust wipers. These guys here. Get those two out. Take your oil-soaked foam ring. Place it in there nicely. Make sure it's square, it doesn't twist or anything. Then we're gonna take our oil seal and dust wiper. Put it on there nice and square. To help you get the dust wipe and oil seal seated, you can use a 1.5 inch piece of PVC. We're gonna carefully make sure not to crush the lip of our seal here. Now we're gonna work it slowly, squarely into the hole. Okay, this one went in, this side went in a lot sooner, so I'm gonna carefully pull that back out. Once we've got it started fairly square, we're going to use our pipe to help push it in there. I'll give you guys another angle. So I'm going to push on this side, square it up. You're going to want to get this seated all the way around evenly. You don't want that coming up on the trail and having dirt get down inside your lowers. It's a good idea to have the free end that you're not working on sticking up off the table, so you can't, get any leverage and bend your crown here. Now that we got our dust seals installed, We're gonna take a little bit of SRAM butter, add a little bit of that to our seals. Now these were new seals, so they came with a little bit installed. Just gonna add a little bit more. This is gonna stop with stiction on the stanchions. Keep your ride a little smoother. Okay, our lowers are all serviced. If you're just trying to do a lower service, you can skip to the part where I'm reinstalling the lowers. But I'm gonna put these aside and we're gonna service the uppers. Okay, before we go any further with the disassembly of the uppers, we need to get rid of any dirt that could find its way down into the mechanism. So let's take some canned air, use a rag. Let's remove our little ring here. Clean that off. Let's clean our stanchions. We'll use a brush to get down in there. Well, that's working pretty good. We're just trying to get as much dirt away from everything before we go opening it up. Okay, before we open up the top of the air cap here, let's double check our Schrader valves are empty. A little bit of air came out. Check our bottom one. This is double air spring. A little bit of air came out there too. Now let's take our 24mm socket. Start moving our air cap. Don't let it slip like I just did. You don't want to mar your cap. Okay, we'll set our air cap aside. Next, we're going to depress this Schrader valve and we're going to push this up as far as we can. Okay, now we're going to want to flip the fork upside down. Okay, here's the snap ring we need to remove. In order to get this other base plate out of the way, what we're going to do is I'm going to take a 15mm socket, push down on the center of that, and then remove the snap ring. Depressing the center plate with the socket unlocks the snap ring. With the snap ring removed, we're just going to go ahead and pull our air spring out. There's our air spring assembly. Now your air spring side should be completely hollow. Okay, let's take a new bite of the fork, and we're going to bite on the steer tube now. Okay, now we're going to take our t-shirt on a stick. Got a new piece of shirt on there. Put some alcohol on it, and then we're going to clean the inside of the air chamber. Let's turn our patch inside out. I'm going to go 2 layers to make it a little bit thicker, and push it down again. That looks spotless. Let's flip it over and check the other side. Okay, I'm going to pay special attention to the inside of where the air cap was to get that dirt out of there so it doesn't find its way back down inside there. I'm going to clean this threaded area. It's spotless down there. It's a mirror. Got our air spring out. Let's take this apart. Here's our base plate. Here's our wavy washer. Here's our support ring. Which one is this? Negative piston top out bumper. This looks like a spacer. This is called our negative piston. We're going to slide that off of there. Then the rest of this I don't believe comes apart. Let's clean it up. Let's start cleaning up the individual pieces. Be careful with these washers, they're fragile. Okay, now we need to change the O-rings in the negative air piston and on the positive air piston. We'll use our picks. Be super careful not to scratch any of your pistons. You want to dig into that O-ring. Make sure you're only getting the O-ring. So there's no confusion. Let's just change that now. Let's find the matching O-ring. This one looks like it here. Let's double check. Same thickness, same diameter. Let's put the new one over here. Let's take the old one and set it on the table. Put our other O-rings in the bag. Okay, we'll put our new one on. Looks nice. Now we need to get the O-rings off our negative air piston. Again, be careful not to scratch this. Now these have an internal O-ring too, so we're going to be carefully remove that one. Let's pull out our kit, match those up. This one is this one. Put our new ones on the bottom and our old ones on the top. It's pretty thick, that looks good. Slightly smaller diameter, but I may have stretched the old one out quite a bit. Put our new ones over here, take our old ones, put them on the table. Let's put a little grease on these O-rings. This one's internal, so it'll be a little harder to lube up later. Put that back inside our negative air piston, which looks like it's going to be a real hoot. Okay, that's installed. Let's grease this one up. Pop that one on. Now what we're going to do is apply some grease to our air shaft. You may want to be wearing gloves for this. I should be wearing gloves. I forgot to put them on. Now we're going to put everything back on in the same order that we removed it. Just be nice and gentle. You don't want to hurt your O-rings. That one's pretty much cleaned all the grease off of there. Okay, our assembly's put back together. If your paper towel starts to get too dirty and contaminated, swap it out. You don't want any of that stuff making it into the new system. Okay, let's grease up all our O-rings real generously. Okay, our air shaft's all put together and ready to be installed. Okay, we got to change the O-ring on the air cap. Let's clean that up. You don't want dirt going into any of your assemblies. As things move, it'll score them up and they'll leak and your shocks will be done. Okay, let's match up its O-ring. Okay, it's that one. These O-rings have a cast mark on them, a cast line. You can barely see it. Let's see if I can get you guys to focus. It's just a small ridge that goes all the way around it. Make sure your O-ring's not twisted when you install it. Grease up this O-ring so it doesn't get cut when we install it. Guys, I wanted to mention one thing to you real quick. If you want to increase the travel of your fork, go ahead and take out this spacer right here. This is a 10mm spacer, so if I were to take that out, it'd increase the travel of the fork by 10mm. Conversely, if you want to reduce your travel, add these. Okay, next thing we want to do is you want to apply grease down inside here. Go about 2.5, 3 inches down there. Just apply an even coat of grease all the way through here. Let's grease that edge. And now we're going to take our air piston assembly, make sure our rings are in place here. We're going to work it down inside there nice and easy. Okay, that's in. Now we're going to work our negative air piston in there. Okay, that's in. If you got it all assembled right, this base should feel springy, and it does. So let's get our snap ring. Snap rings have a sharp side and a rounded side, depending on how they're punched out. So this would be the rounded side, this would be the sharper side. So put your sharper side towards your tool end, and it'll be less likely to slip off your tool. Let's rotate the whole assembly. And we've got our air cap with its new O-ring and it's greased. Put that on nice and gentle. We've got our torque wrench set on 7.5 newtons. Hold your socket down nice and flat against the nut so you don't mar it. Okay, that's on. We'll put our air cap on to keep dust out. Okay, our air side service is done. Okay, now let's start service on the damper side. Here's a 2.5mm hex. You're going to remove your compression adjustment knob. Underneath that, you're going to find a little leaf spring with detents. And carefully sneak under that with a flathead. Just work your way nice and easy around it. And take our 24mm socket. Okay, we got our cap loose, so let's pull up on it. Place your oil pan underneath the fork here. Okay. Here's our motion control damper out of there. Let's invert the fork and drain the oil. Okay, we'll let that sit like that. Okay, now we're going to push our rebound shaft down inside here. Hold the end of it. We're going to remove the snap ring. Then we're just going to pull the whole assembly right out the top. Now our damper side is completely empty. I'm going to put some alcohol on some Mountain Dew patches and send them on down there. And send them down one more time. That looks spotless. Okay, we have our motion control damper. Let's go ahead and change the O-rings on it. Be careful not to scratch any of the plastic or you'll get oil leaks. Okay, so match up your O-rings to the new one. This one looks like it. Okay, let's match up the top seal. Looks like it's this one here. This one goes back in the bag. I'm cleaning off the flats of the top here where dirt snuck under the adjustment knob so that stuff doesn't make its way into the system. Okay, we're going to put a little bit of grease on the O-rings so when we put them in they don't get torn. Okay, let's work on the rebound assembly. Take a little bit of alcohol. Let's clean the shaft off. Get rid of as much old oil as we can. Yeah, let's change the O-rings on this. This one has an internal and an external O-ring. Make sure you stab far enough into your O-ring so that you're not slipping and scratching your piston. And I'm pushing in directions with the hook that don't get the piston. Okay, there's our large O-ring. Here's our small one. Let's find them in the kit. Okay, that's obviously that one. And there's only one large one left, so that makes life a little easier. And put the old ones on the table, so I know they're the old ones. Let's grease up the new ones. And stick that down inside there. Okay, that one's installed. Let's grease this one up. Okay, let's change out the glide ring here. Let's match that up. Take our old guy ring, put it on the table so we know it's old. Okay, let's put our seal head back on our rebound rod. Okay, I'm going to put the seal head just a little ways from the end here, about an inch. And that's ready to be put back. All right, let's put the rebound rod back in its place. So you need to pay attention, there's a split in this glide ring. You're going to put the smooth side in the shaft first at an angle. So we're going to leave the split up. We're going to angle it to get it down in there. We're just going to rotate it nice and easy. There it goes. No force at all. Don't go crazy at all. I'm just going to push our seal head in here. We had some grease on our O-rings, so we know they should be good. Okay, there it goes. Okay, our seal head's installed. We'll wipe off our snap ring. Okay, we'll take the sharp side and put that towards the pliers. Okay, we'll rotate the snap ring a little bit, make sure it's seated. Looks like it is. Now we'll pull our damp rod all the way out. We'll rotate the whole assembly. Okay, this part's super critical. The amount of oil and the type of oil. Now here's that secret to making your fork better than new. This Maxima Plush fluid. This is what RockShox is using in their new forks now. It's 5-weight, it's very low stiction, so your fork doesn't have that thing where it holds and then falls. It just kind of floats. It's nice. Anyways, get some of this stuff, and you're gonna need a way to measure it. So I've got this little beaker here, and it goes up to 100 milliliters. But it's not gonna be very accurate for smaller amounts. If you look here, I need 123 milliliters. So I have this smaller syringe to get the smaller amounts. So I'll measure 100 on this, 20 on this, and then I'll score it in 3 using this little syringe. Now, if you're wondering how you figure out exactly what fork you have, I'll leave a link in the description where you can enter your serial number and find out exactly what you got. This is a Reba RL, and it's calling for 123 milliliters. If you put too much, your fork won't have as much travel. And if you don't put enough, you'll get some weird damping. There goes 100. Here's 20. Okay, here goes 3 milliliters. We're going to open this all the way by turning it counterclockwise till it stops. It's already there. And we're just going to place this down inside. I've already greased the O-rings and everything. Let's turn it by hand a little bit. Make sure we don't cross thread it. This one's also 7.5 Newton meters. Okay, that's on there. To put our little leaf spring, put your dimples down into the holes. Put our cap. Now this cap, make sure you get full travel, because you can ride up on this crown right here and cause yourself not to get full travel. So let's check. Perfect. We're getting full travel with no interference. Let's just put our retaining screw in. Don't go crazy on that screw, it's just in plastic. Now the top end of our fork is all put together. If you have regular lowers, now is the time to put them on, and then you can add oil through the holes in the bottom here. But I have hollow leg forks. So I have a slightly different procedure. I'm gonna add the oil first. Since the holes are hard to get to, I'm gonna add the oil first at an angle and then slip it onto the uppers. But if you guys have the standard ones where the bolt's right at the bottom, or your rebound adjustment's right at the bottom, you don't have this hollow portion, you're going to simply put them on, turn them upside down, and add your oil through those holes. My forks are Reba RLs. So if we look here, we did our 123 milliliters already in our damper side, but over here in our lower legs, we need 5 milliliters of 15 weight oil. This is the oil RockShox recommends now in 0W30. So we're gonna put that in the legs. Just gonna set these down onto the little crown. We'll tilt them up a little bit with a water bottle to get a nice little angle. I don't have a way to measure 5 milliliters, so I'm gonna do 3 and then 2 on the syringe here. Let's go ahead and do 3 milliliters. Okay, there goes 2 milliliters. Okay, here goes 3. Goes 2 milliliters. Okay, now we have 5 milliliters in each leg. Just make sure our stanchions are clean one last time. And put our sag ring back on. Just take a little bit of Schramm butter. We're just gonna put it right here, right where this hard edge is, to help those seals slide on. Holding our lowers horizontal, just gonna put them on there nice and slow. Try not to scrape the insides. So the goal here is not to fold the lips. I want to just get them on there nice and straight. Okay, both sides are started. Now I'm gonna see, I'm just gonna check before I go pushing it up there, make sure that my lips aren't folded in anywhere. That side looks good. This side looks good. Okay, let's slide it up there. Okay, we can tilt the fork up now that the top is sealed. These 2 extra pieces in the kit Probably went to a different model fork, so we'll leave them in there. And that leaves us with the crush washers. So these things have little plastic seals called crush washers, and you can reuse them, but the kit comes with new ones, so let's throw on some new ones. When you're doing your lower leg service and you're just gonna, clean them out and splash new oil, you can just reuse those. All right, we're back to the beginning. We just got to put our fasteners back down in there and torque them. The Vinzo torque wrench kit I reviewed in an earlier video even has the long 5mm Allen key you're going to need. On the damper side, it's going to be a 5mm Allen key with an extension. You start it by hand, make sure that we're not cross-threaded. On this side, it's going to be a 10mm socket, and I'm using the 1/2-inch drive because it's the only thing big enough for the Schrader valve to pass through the middle. If you find that you're turning and turning, push your lowers on a little further. It's going to jam that rod into the bottom of your lowers. Now we're starting to get somewhere. Okay, the torque spec down here is also 7.3. Fork is sealed up now. Okay, at the back of the shock here, we have some baseline numbers. Let's take a look at those. Fife is about 100 and a little less pounds, so it says our air should be 70 to 90, so let's use 80. And our negative air, 70 to 90, so let's use 80. So 80 on top, 80 on bottom. There goes 80. Okay, put our air cap on the bottom. Let's not forget our rebound adjustment knob. All right, you guys, that concludes the service of these forks. They're ready to be reinstalled. After a quick double check of the fasteners, this thing's ready to hit the trails again. If you found this useful, subscribe. It would really help me out a lot. And I'll see you guys back in the shop.